here we are. It is Friday, January 19th, 2024, and we're back. As you know, last week we couldn't do a video because I had some surgery done last week and ended up having an intubation tube put into me, and it was abraded my larynx. So when I came out of the surgery, I literally had no voice whatsoever. I could whisper and I could write on a piece of paper what I wanted to say, but that was about it. And for me, last week the surgery was the least of what happened last week, because our beloved dog Skipper, after 17 years, he had to be put to sleep. Over the last couple of weeks, he'd been having a rough time walking. By Monday of last week, the beginning of last week, he couldn't stand up anymore. He wasn't in no pain. My wife works in a veterinary practice, and she assured me he wasn't in any pain. He just became immobilized, and eventually, by Tuesday, he couldn't walk, and he hadn't eaten in several days, and we had to make that terrible decision. But he was 17 years old, and he was a grand little dog. And as those of you that have dogs, that you have them for a long time, we've always had dogs. It was a very, very sad week. So when I got through that, and we got through that, thinking about the surgery coming up the next day seemed almost trivial. But at any rate, last week is behind us, thankfully, and we go on from here. And we're going to have a little marker in the yard for the dog, and April is still here. She's actually sound asleep next to me. And I hope you're all well, and thank you for your comments about my reason for not having a video last week. I hate to miss them, but it was an impossibility by Friday. It was physically impossible. Unless I typed it, I guess. All right, what's been going on? There's a lot of stuff happening. If you're using the global pages, either through the Bitamount site directly or through the Patreon side, you'll see that there are a ton of auctions up there right now. There's a lot of interesting material around. A number of sales finished this week, and we just updated it again. And I'm going to go through a few of the things that are coming up that might be of interest to you. A number of sales that are coming up, and some interesting things and some interesting results as always. And let's get into it. All right. This was a sale at Sotheby's. This was the many of you, I don't know if you follow it, but the last couple of years they've been doing a thing called sort of royal, and they call it royal and noble. It's a little pretentious, but anyway, these are things that come, objects that come out of famous family collections, often with interesting provenance and so forth. And it's high-end decorative stuff, high-end decorative furniture from all cultures, not just Asian art, but everywhere, all over the world. And they had some nice Chinese things in the sale. And one of them was this. It was a pair of Kung Shi period incise decorated celadon jars that had a very low estimate. 1,500 to 2,500 pounds. We looked at it and we thought, boy, that's reasonable. They're beautifully done. Beautiful soft green color. They had their original lids, which is almost a miracle. And in the end, they did very well. They brought $11,430. They were quite attractive. And they measured 9.5 inches tall. These weren't huge jars, but very elegant, very subtle, and wonderfully carved. And I don't think the price was unreasonable. I thought the estimate was very, very low. But low estimates encourage bidding. And again, as we've discussed many times, estimates mean nothing in most auctions. In the majority of auctions, I think, what was the number? 2/3 of the estimates are more than are gone over, and many go double the high estimate. So there's another example. And then the very interesting Famille Rose figural vases. I thought these were wonderful, and I thought the estimate was very, very low. Again, 2,000 to 3,000 pounds for these. These were extremely attractive. They had ruffle rims. They were very fine quality enameling on these. These had beautiful enameling. This is a fairly standard type that we see often that were made between 1820 and 1850 or 60, and some are much better than others. And these were much better. These were really, really well done. I thought they were beautiful. The colors were balanced, and I loved the rims on them, the way they did that. That was sort of it's not unheard of, but it wasn't typically done on vases of this exact form, so it made them a bit more interesting. And in the end, they also did well. They ended up selling for £7,620 against a 2,000 to 3,000 pound estimate. And these were pretty good size. They were 33 inches in height, so they're almost 3 feet tall. And, from the way the market's been over the last few years, I don't think 7,600 pounds is at all high for these. That's $3,600 a piece for a 33-inch tall Famille Rose vase of exceptional quality. So again, that was a very good buy. And this shows also that the major auction houses sometimes intimidate people, and they don't want to necessarily shop there. They feel that it's out of their range. Well, here's a pair of vases. These could have sold anywhere in the country. They happen to be selling at Sotheby's, and you can buy at Sotheby's just as well as you can buy at Bronx or anywhere else in the country. They're happy to have your business. All right, same with Christie's and Bottoms. All right, and then over here to this, this was an interesting thing. These are not Japanese Amari, but I wanted to show these because I get a lot of people through the Identification Assistance Service on Bidamount. People send me often pictures of things that look to be Japanese and are actually Samson. And sometimes they debate it a little bit. They can't be a Samson because the color of the cobalt and all this other stuff. Well, here's a pair of them, and these are Samson. These are French, and from 10 feet away, very few people would be able to figure out with any absolute certainty that these were not Japanese. You'd have to look at them pretty carefully. But this is the kind of work that Samson was doing during the late 19th century. In particular, they were emulating early 18th century, mid 18th century Japanese Amari, and these were a really beautiful pair, and they were very tall. 90 centimeters or 93, I forget how tall they were. 94 centimeters tall, 37 inches in height, and the pair sold for just 3,810 pounds. That is all. Even though you may be mainly interested in Japanese and Chinese and Korean and Asian art, from a antique and decorative antique standpoint, these I think were an exceptional bargain. Because these are very big, they make a beautiful presence, and if you have a house and it's got a lot of Asian highlights to it, maybe some European furniture, this and that. These are the kinds of things that tie in beautifully, and you typically find them you don't find these in America very often, but you often find them in big, grand old European houses where they might have done a bit of redecorating in the late 19th, early 20th century during the Industrial Revolution. There was a lot of cash around and people were buying things. This is the kind of thing that you might find in a nice European, English, or French country house. Just absolutely beautiful and classically done, and French. So it's just something to always keep in mind. This is how good they can look. When Samson did it right and did great copies, this is how good they can get. And it's just a difficult thing sometimes to figure out, to get around. All right, now over here, there were a few bargains last week too. This was a sale at Topwell's in Hyde Park, New York, and these were, I would say, definitely categorized themselves as the bargain of the week. These were 15.5 inches tall, mid 19th century Famille Rose medallion jars with chimeras. They're not cut down; they're full height. They look to be in very good shape. One of them has a star crack, as I recall, in the base there, but they're not broken. And somebody got the pair for $300 plus premium, so it'll probably be $420 for the pair. That's less than $200 a piece for a big pair, 15-inch tall, mid-19th century rose medallion vases. I thought these were a very good buy. They were estimated reasonably, I thought, $600 to $800. Because in the past, we've seen pairs of these in this size, that general size, sell for anywhere from $900 to $1,500. And on occasion, they can even bring more. So whoever got these for $300, I hope it was one of you. And this goes also back to the point, leave a bid. This apparently had one bid. Starting price, competing bid, there was none, sold. $300 on a single bid. All right, that's a great buy. All right, and then over to here, this was another piece. This was also at Topwell's, and these were a reasonable buy. It was a pair of these Kangxi vases. They measure about 11 inches tall. It's a pattern. It's a fairly well-known pattern. Very nicely done. Good condition. They were estimated at $5,000 to $7,000, which seemed within reason, and they ended up selling for $4,500 plus premium. So they ended up probably finished out at around $5,700 or $2,850 a piece, something like that. Which is, I think, is a pretty good price, pretty fair price. Because often we often say the value of a pair is 3 times the price of a single, and I would think the single price on these would probably be $2,000 to $3,000. So they got a bit of a discount whoever bought these, and they were very attractive, nice pair of blue and white vases. All right, and this was another little bargain from this. I think this was the same sale, wasn't it? Topwell's, yeah. Topwell's, I think, might have had a little bit of a rough day or got missed. I don't know what happened. But this is a 19-inch tall Celadon Famille Rose mid-19th century garden barrel. It had a couple of minor areas of flaking enamels, nothing too significant. And in the past, these Celadon garden seats, especially Celadon ground ones, and with very nice quality decoration, these typically sell for, anywhere from $8,000 to $1,400, $8,000 to $1,300. $800 is an absolute minimum. $800 or $900, and these sold for $375 plus whatever the premium is. There were only 2 bidders involved, or 3 bidders, $325, $350, $375 sold. So they ended up going out the door for about $450 for this stool, and I think that was a really good buy. And it may have scared people off because shipping these is a little bit difficult. And this is why I always say, if you live near an auction house, you're at a great advantage price-wise, especially on bigger things that are going to need to be shipped, because you're not going to have to incur that large shipping fee. Because to ship these, of course, from New York to California and have it packaged and picked up by a UPS store or whoever does it, because I don't think they do. Yeah, they don't do their own shipping, which is too bad. I keep saying these auction houses have to start doing their own shipping because they're becoming less and less competitive in the market. Anyway, to have this garden barrel picked up, packaged and shipped UPS, because it would be a little tough to send this through the post office because of its size, would probably cost around $500 to $600 in shipping. So if you're in the area, obviously you've got a little bit of leverage there, and I think whoever bought these is probably most of the viewers were going to have it shipped, and they found out the shipping was going to be $500 or $600, $700. So that ends up bringing the ultimate price up close to what one would sell for without the shipping if there wasn't shipping involved normally. So around $900. So that's the advantage. So if you have an auction in your area, always check auctions within driving distance of you, because you can really make out sometimes. And this is a classic case. I hope whoever bought these lived 2 blocks from the auction house. He's got a great buy. All right, and this was something that I probably had 4 or 5 auction preview assistant inquiries on in the last few weeks. We didn't include it in the global member pages because I didn't like this plate. This was advertised as a ruby back plate. Now, they didn't date it. Now, this is Oriental Auctions, and they did not date this. In fairness to them, they didn't say anything. They just said it's a Chinese ruby back Famille Rose ladies and boys dish. They didn't say it's brand new, which is too bad. They should have said that because it is brand new. But it was estimated at €500 to €700, starting bid of 400. And I told everybody who asked me about it, don't buy this. It's a fake. And this is a very good fake. It's beautifully done. This is, again, one of these examples of how good fakes can be. Here's the back of it. And the big giveaway on this is all this orange peel all over the back of it, and the color of that foot rim right off the bat should tell you stay away from this thing. But the quality of the work, is exceptional. And were this an authentic ruby back plate, it would probably have sold for between $3,000 and $5,000 or $4,000 and $6,000. All right, because that's what they're worth. But this piece isn't, and they even, somebody even rubbed off a bit of the gilding on the edge and so forth. But it's got that brown foot and that very, very peely back, and the faces are a little too well done. These are almost too good in some areas, the way the faces are drawn and so forth. The composition is excellent, but it's a fake. All right, and that just again shows you the level that fakes are getting to. Also, I'm seeing, as an aside on the newest things, we're seeing a lot of these Wu Shuangpu calligraphy, the 40 Immortal porcelain. Some of you collect those. They're starting to make a lot of copies of those because the price of those have spiked in recent years, along with other things like real transitional wares. We've seen them suddenly a flood into the market of copies of transitional wares. We've seen great copies of Sung wares, great copies of Ru wares. Ru wares were really the first of the big, I would think, the first big wave of astounding copies, because they're so easy to reproduce with today's technology, and are so valuable if they're authentic, because there's only about 100 known pieces in the world. But at any rate, they now seem to be, they're definitely moving into the Chinese export area. We've seen Chinese export porcelains. We're seeing this ruby back business. We've seen transitional wares, and who knows where they'll go next. But this was a pretty classic case. All right, now over to this. This was a result. Many of you remember this was the Gempetro sale. I think, Fred Gempetro. He's a longtime dealer. He was a very well-known American folk art dealer, in particular back in the 80s and 90s. He's been around forever. He's got a perfectly good reputation, and he had some very nice carpets. And he had this one particular rug, this antique serape. And this was a very big carpet, 185 inches by 106 inches. So it's roughly 9 feet by 9 by around 15, something like that. This was one of the nicest serapes I've seen in a while. Graphically, I like it. Visually, I think this was an unbelievably successful Persian rug design. Absolutely elegant. This beautiful sort of rusty orange field, and this very nice, slightly green yellow medallion, and this archaic sort of medallion in the center with the drop pole, and then you have these drop poles coming off the ends and so forth. This is a really pretty rug. Lots of arbrush in the blue border all through it. It's just riddled with arbrush, which is all it is a change of color. If you hear the term arbrush when that people are talking about rugs, what happens is that weavers, when they're weaving across the rug, when they're weaving it going up the rug, when they finish a skein of wool, all the wool was hand dyed. So when they get to a new skein of wool, they may have they're using a light blue, and they may have a slightly different shade light blue also that they dyed, because it's all hand done. These aren't done. The dyes are not applied to the wool in factory, so it's all terribly uniform. So you see shifts in color as you go up a rug, and sometimes the shifts are fairly dramatic, like here in the middle where the red is. They shifted skeins here. All right, and then when you look in the border, you have this very, very light blue area here and a bit of a darker blue area there. That's called arbrush, or shifting colors. At any rate, I think this rug was a steal. Even $7,000, I realize, is a lot of money for a carpet, but it isn't really. I mean, this rug in the 1990s probably would have sold for $25,000. In this sale, it sold for, and it's not Gempetro's fault. The rug market is very soft right now. It's starting to come back, and I'm going to warn you, if you like Persian rugs and you want to get one for your house, get it now, because I think in 4 or 5 years they're going to be very expensive once again when appreciation begins to grow for what goes into weaving one of these rugs. It's an astonishing amount of work from carding the wool, shearing the wool, carding the wool, dyeing the wool, setting up looms, and especially among tribal rugs, because they were portable looms, so they'd put them up and weave a bit, and then they'd take it down and move their yurts and their animals and livestock, because many of them were sheep herders and goat herders and that sort of thing. But anyway, and they wove rugs to make extra money when they would go to villages and towns and stop. They'd use them as trade goods, as trade craft goods, to exchange for things that they needed. They would sell their rugs. And this was an extremely nice rug. So all in, it ended up probably costing around between $9,000 and $10,000, which I think was very, very reasonable. All right, and then over to this. There was that little Satsuma bowl we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I liked it a lot. I just thought it was a wonderful little bowl. There was an inscription on the bottom. I never bothered to look it up, but I thought it would do pretty well. And it did. It ended up selling for $650 plus premium, so around $800 for it, a little over estimate. But it was very fine quality Satsuma in a nice shape. It had a very attractive shape to this bowl. and the enameling was quite excellent on it all the way around. And I love the little fellow here hanging off the corner of the bowl, looking into the middle. I thought that was a great effect, and it's only done on one side. And he's over here, hanging over, looking down into this maw of people walking around and women and so forth, with a dragon going through the crowd. You see the dragon here? There's a dragon sort of working his way through this crowd of immortals down below, and this fellow is watching from the rim. And then, of course, there's the other huge dragon framing the whole scene up here. Starting here, there's two dragons actually going around it. It's a very nice bowl. I think that was a really good thing to buy for someone, if you're a Satsuma collector especially. And then back to this, the lacquered box. I talked a bit about this a couple of weeks ago because I thought it was just such a great box, and I thought the estimate was very low. The estimate was meaningless. This was an extremely good piece of China trade lacquer from the sort of the mid 19th century. And I remember talking about it and saying what's unusual about it is that it still had its wooden feet. And most of the time when you see these, they either have no feet at all and just sit flat, or they have applied metal feet, which they made, because the wooden feet would often get knocked off. They weren't terribly stable. But this box had been meticulously cared for. It was complete inside and out. It still had its pewter liners. The interior was in crisp condition. Beautiful, beautiful. And I think we estimated at $1,000 to $1,500 minimum. It ended up selling for $1,800 plus premium. And it's because people that see these recognize that in this condition, they don't turn up very often. They just don't. They turn up in rough shape. And there's nothing wrong with the ones that have a bit of wear to them either. But boy, it's sort of a thrill to see one that's absolutely perfect. That's how it looked like the day it left Canton. That's what it looked like. All right, and then over here, this is the Brunk sale coming up. Brunk's is another sale coming up. You want to check it out. They're on Live Auctioneers. They're on Valuable. There's this rather nice, it's sort of loosely decorated, sort of Wanli dish with a deer in the center, but unusual layout, not as intensely done as a lot of Wanli pieces. So I kind of like it for that. It's a more subtle sort of dish, more elegant, a little more elegant, I think, and I like the creatures, these mythical sort of chimeras or sort of, I'm not sure what they are, mythical beasts. They have sort of the body of a dragon, but they've got manes on them. So maybe they're just maybe it's a rendition. Yeah, it's a rendition of baby dragons, chimeras. Okay, and this is in the sale coming up. It's not a huge dish. It's good size, 11 inches in diameter. Has a very modest estimate, $200 to $400. Should easily get there. $100 opening bid. This sale is on the 24th, so you have enough time to check it out. That's in about 5 days. And there's also things like this in the sale. This is a big lot. All the pieces across the top appear to be Ming. The ones down below, the one on the left is 18th century, and the other two are probably 19th century. But it's an interesting lot for the top three. If you're a Ming collector, Ming tradeware collector, they measure 6 to 8 inches in diameter, and all of these together are estimated at just $200 to $400. Again, $100 opening bid. The lot should bring $600 to $800, but we'll see. We'll see. It may not. All right, and the last thing in the sale is this. This is a Gyukusan for Hodada decorated Satsuma vase. It's about 14 or 15 inches tall. And what struck me about this is a fairly well-known type with all the immortals on it. But what struck me about this was the potting on it looked awfully good. The shaping of the vase, was the proportions are really good. I think, and very clean, very smooth, and of course nicely decorated and marked on the bottom. But this is a good looking one. If you've been looking for a big sort of Meiping Satsuma type vase, this is a nice one. And as I said, it is exactly 14. Yeah, it's 14 and a half inches tall. Came out of a collection in Ohio. $400 to $600 estimate. That's a no-brainer. It should get up to $1,000 to $1,500, but we'll see. All right, and then this, many of you may remember this, Allers and Ogletree down in Georgia. And this isn't one of the bad Georgia auction houses. There are a number of auction houses in Georgia that are terrible, as we all know, and we've talked about them many times. But this is Allers and Ogletree. They're in Atlanta. They're pretty good. Seem to run a pretty good operation. And they had this Monteith bowl on a sale several months ago. And as I recall, it sold for about $4,000 with the buyer's premium, roughly. Well, evidently, whoever bid on it didn't pay for it, and I have no idea why. And it's back. And they're re-offering it. It's the same bowl, and many of you I know liked it. because I got emails from a couple of you saying, what do you think? And I think this is a really nice Monteith. They've got lots of good photographs. The interior is in wonderful condition. I don't see any wear or chips or abrasion. The scene in the center with the precious objects and the goo vase and all the little bits with it and the flowers is really, really nice. There's the bottom of it. It's a perfectly good a Monteith ball. And it's right now. It's only got 3 bids. It's up to $400. The sale is on the 24th. If you missed it last time and you like these things, go back and register and go after this. It's a little over 12 inches in diameter, 12.5 inches in diameter. So it's a good sized bowl, and it certainly is worth the $3,000 to $4,000 that was bid on it last time. So if you've thought about it since, you say, gee, I should have bid on that. Well, you got a second bite at the apple, so go get it. You may get a bargain because a lot of people will remember it. All right, and then this is coming up at Hinman's in Chicago. This is also, all this stuff is already on the global pages. This a really nice Hinman's in Chicago. I think this is in Chicago. Is this really nice piece of wallpaper? Chinese 18th or early 19th century. They're calling it a wallpaper. I'm not sure it was wallpaper, to be perfectly honest. Is it decorated on both sides? It is. Oh, no, it's a pair. Okay, never mind. I thought it was just one. All right, there we go. They call it a pair of wallpaper panels, but it doesn't look like. I don't think this is wallpaper. I think these are paintings. And they're done on paper, but this pattern doesn't particularly look like wallpaper to me, the way they did typically done wallpaper. At any rate, they're quite large. These are very nice. They're 6 feet tall and 38 inches wide. So they're 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide each. And they're estimated at just $1,500 to $2,500. And these are wonderful. And I love the frames. The kind of things these are the kinds of things you see in Europe with these, in France, for example, with these green shaped frames going around them. That very soft celadon green color, which is so nice. And it complements the green within the painting. It's beautifully done. This is a really elegant pair of paintings, and 6 feet tall. These are big. Big. What are they worth? I think they're worth $2,000 or $3,000 a piece. From where I sit, from a decorative bang standpoint, they're late 18th to early 19th century. They're just dating them as 19th century, which is perfectly fair. The sale is on February 8th. They have a $1,500 to $2,500 estimate. Apparently, I doubt there's any reserve on them. There's only one bid right now of $750. If you've been looking for a stupendous couple of paintings to put in your home, boy, these are really great. These are really beautifully painted. I can't say enough. I like those a lot, obviously. And then over to this is this little Kangxi period double spout teapot or wine pot. There you have it. Now, it looks like it may have had some repairs to this arm here on the support side. You want to get a condition report on this, but this is a fairly unusual form. You don't see the double spout versions very often, and it's got the bamboo, the porcelain handle that's been decorated to simulate bamboo. It looks like it also needs a desperate need of a cleaning. Estimated $1,000 to $1,500. It was sold by Eleanor Gordon, and apparently still has the label on the bottom. And this is the kind of stuff Eleanor Gordon sold. She sold great stuff. Gosh, she was like Moog down in Atlanta. They sold great stuff too. I don't know if they're still around. I don't think they are. But at any rate, you want to check that out if you're a Kangxi buyer or early 18th century buyer. $1,000 to $1,500 estimate, reasonable, $500 starting bid. And then over to this is also in the Hinman sale. This is also from Eleanor Gordon. And this is a very rare bird, and I think it's going to I suspect it'll blow that estimate away. It is a tobacco leaf with eggplant terrine. This is a really unusual piece of export ware. They're dating it as 19th century, 8.5 inches. I don't think it's 19th century. I think it's probably 18th century. But they didn't provide a good picture of the bottom of it, so I can't go into it too much. But sure, the tobacco leaf pattern generally is 18th century, of course, and that's what this looks like. But they didn't show the bottom. I wish they did. But this is a very rare thing. This is a really rare figural form, and the estimate, I think, is very low. It should bring $3,000 or $4,000. I would think. I would think. But it's, again, if you're an export buyer and you want to check that out, the $1,000 to $2,000 estimate is very, very, very low. Tobacco, just plain tobacco leaf plates, bring $600, $700, $800, and this is a piece of hollowware with an eggplant form to it. So there you are. And then this, the 13 panel, they're dating this as 20th century. I don't think it is. I think it's probably 19th century, judging by the work and the color and the way it's done. It's a huge screen. All right, I think it's a late Qing screen more than likely. But regardless, it's a very nice one, very, very, very decorative and big. It is 108 inches tall, and 18, each panel is 18 inches. So it's got 13 panels, estimated at $3,000 to $5,000. If you live in the Chicago area, this is something, if you wanted to put a nice black and gilt screen in your house, this wouldn't be a bad choice. Wouldn't be a bad choice at all. $1,500 opening bid. And if it doesn't sell, you can always go back and remember. Don't forget that if you look at some. I noticed a number of auctions. They had some buy-ins in the last week or two. Don't be afraid to contact the auction houses always and say, look, it didn't sell. You had an $800 to $1,200 estimate. Would you take $500 for it? And very often they will. And I've said it many, many times. All right, and then what else is coming up is that Mike Grogan, my friend Michael in Boston, is having this sale, and he's a rug guy going back 40 or 50 years. But at any rate, this is a very interesting auction. It's a Kaffel collection, and if you like tribal rugs, rare early tribal rugs. These are not inexpensive. These are some of the finest of their type known. There's Turkish rugs in here, Caucasian rugs, lots of great Turkoman pieces, Bershears, Baluch. I think there's a couple of Chinese pieces in here. These are all Turkoman pieces or Baluch. Some great examples, Afshar, and so forth. It's a sale worth looking at. And they have things like this, the Techie Bird Asmalik. This is a sort of a famous. This one has actually been published many times. It's been in Hali. It's been in it was on the cover of one of the Eberhard Harriman catalogs in 1990. It sold at Sotheby's in 1990. Harriman bought it and sold it. And he was one of the sort of legendary art rug dealers of the 80s and 90s. And before, actually. But this is a really stupendously fine example. It looks to be extremely complete, almost untouched. And this should do very, very well. It's got a $30,000 to $50,000 estimate with a $15,000 opening bid. But it's a rare, rare bird. If you're looking for something really rare, get it. And then there's this. And this piece to me, this is an Arabachi called Arabachi Shuwal, Shuwal means saddlebag, basically. It means a bag. And it would have a back attached to it. But the coloration on this is just so incredibly warm and beautiful, and the drawing style is elegant. And when you look at these great Turkoman pieces like this, especially Arabachi Salor, some of these, the warmth, the depth of the warmth, the color is just so beautiful. And what's interesting about this is that you can see Chinese and Asian and Nepalese influences in this sort of archaistic secondary, what's known as a gull on the rug. Often done with these sort of patterns, and it's almost like the pattern you'd see on Chinese bronze. You'd see it on things from Asia, and here it is on a piece of Arabachi ware, Arabachi textile from Central Asia. Just a beautiful example, and it's estimated at $5,000 to $8,000. I think it'll probably go over that. It's got a $2,500 opening bid. Again, Grogan's coming up. Now, this sale is in 3 days. It's on Sunday. Today's Friday. So you do have time to do it. I'm sure they'll be there on Saturday because they're going to be, I know they're going to be answering phone calls and stuff because they always are the day before sale. So if you're interested in this auction, do it. And if you want to get even better pictures, go to the Grogan website and you can pull them up over there as well. And if you can open an account on the Grogan site and do it directly. And then the other thing that's in the sale is this. This is a great rarity. It's an 18th century Azerbaijan rug. And the colors are stunning. And people look at these and they think, boy, that must be brand new. No, this is a 200-year-old rug. And it just shows you what they looked like when they were new. The color saturation was so fantastic on these. Just amazing. I know some of you aren't interested in rugs, but I know a number of you are too, because I've talked to you. But this is a great example. It's not a big rug. This is not a big room carpet. It is only 5 by 4 feet. It's estimated at $30,000 to $50,000, but it is an 18th century rug, and the world does not have many 18th century rugs because they wore out and people got rid of them. All right, now moseying along, changing gears. What's going on over or what went on at eBay this week? There's a bunch of things coming up. There's this. This is a Stubbsy Wubsy has this. This is an 8 or 9 inch tall incense stick holder, probably 18th century. Rather nicely done. Looks like it has been polished a bit over the years. That's why it doesn't have any dark patina. But the quality of the work is quite excellent on it. It's just gone up. It's got 9 days to go. It'll be on the newsletter page, of course, as always on bid amount. You want to check that out. That'll be in there this weekend. Room Tonic, Matthew down in Marblehead's got a bunch of listings up. For those of you who like China trade wares in particular, he's got a number of punch bowls, a number of different pattern plates, so forth. He turns up some good things, so you sort of want to track him. You keep an eye on Matthew. All right, and then this is very nice. He apparently has a reserve on it. Who's the seller here? I don't know the seller. Taddison Lynn Antiques. I don't know who it is. Anyway, he's in the UK. It's a really nice Shuan pottery figure of a Lohan or Scholar or something, but beautifully done, beautifully glazed piece of Shuan ware. And it measures, I think it's 9 or 10 inches tall. Hold on, let's double check the height. 29 centimeters tall, so it's 11 inches tall. It's a pretty good size piece. And this is a very fine one. If you like Shuan ware, you sort of have an interest in it, this is a chance to buy a good one. That's a very, very attractive piece of pottery. It looks like he's holding a shoe, it looks like. I wonder why he's holding his shoes. There's the back of it with this warm red glaze down it and so forth. There's the bottom, very typical Shuan ware. But a nice example. It should bring $600 to $800. So we'll see. It ends tomorrow. It ends Saturday. So if you're thinking of buying a piece of Shuan, this is a good big piece, almost a foot tall. Nice piece. And then this is coming up. This is a piece of Kutani. It's not the early Kutani that it's doing. It's a Kutani revival piece, probably from the late Edo to Meiji period. But it's got a very rustic look to it, like the way 17th century Kutani looked, even more rustic in some ways, but nicely decorated. Here's the mark on the bottom with the standard Kutani mark on it. But this is a nice looking piece of Kutani ware. It's just like a wine bottle, very squat, very nice form, very attractive. And it's let's see, this closes in 2 days, Sunday. It's only up to 27 US dollars. Now this should bring 300 or 400. This is a very nice piece of rustic old Kutani revival done during the 19th century, mid-19th century, I suspect. But beautiful, really interesting piece. Got a great aesthetic to it. And the shipping from the UK is reasonable, 45 US from England to the United States. That's perfectly reasonable. And now this fellow, Bay Point Home Decor. I don't know who they are. Home Deco. Bay Point Home Deco. Located in Sugarland, Texas. What was it? Goldie Hawn, Sugarland. Those of you that have been around a while know that movie. Anyway, she went to get her kid back. It's a long story. Anyway, it's a wild story. This is a nice Chinese painting. And there's 2 of them from this seller. They'll both be on the newsletter page. Very nicely painted. These were done in the late 19th century, typically, but they came in albums. We've seen these types of paintings before. I always think they're wonderful. And these were often not mailed, but exported to the West at some point or another. And people would have collections of them. I've been in houses where people had albums of these paintings that have come down through the family, and they might have 100 or 200 of these paintings. Because somebody back in 1900 to 1930 in the family took a big interest, and they ended up just saying, "I'll just take all of them," and then they just go on a shelf because they never get them framed. But this is a nice one. Somebody did get it framed, and there's two of these. They're very similar. They'll be on the newsletter page this week. All right, and then this. I'm only mentioning this. This poor thing has been offered. I think this is the third or fourth time this has been up. This is Josh Chamberlain, and every time it goes, it sells for $3,000 or $4,000, and then nobody pays for it, and he ends up getting to relist it. Would one of you buy this thing? It's 36 or so inches tall. I know I've talked about it a bunch of times. This is a great artifact, and I have no idea why people aren't paying their they like to tie things up, beat it down, and then get them to relist it, and then try to buy it again. Keep hoping the price will drop. But this is a great thing. Hit it for $3,000 or $4,000, and you might get it, and then you can pay for it and keep it. This is a good piece of Chinese costume art, decorative art. It's very nice. And I have no idea why whoever's buying it isn't paying for it. Also, this week, there's this very nice Ningxia. They're saying 17th to 18th century. I don't think this is 17th to 18th century, judging by that weave on the back. That's more of a mid to late 19th century weave. The way that the wefts are done and the way the ends are finished off. But I don't think the seller's being dishonest. I think he probably saw a picture of some of the originals that were done during the Qianlong period and thought, oh, it's just like the Qianlong ones. Because they continued making them in this pattern. But this is a really nice rug. And it's not a huge rug. This is a small rug. It's probably, 2.3 by 4.5 feet. Fairly small. A great accent piece, though. If you're looking for a really nice Chinese rug, this has the very soft yellow and that sort of soft rust color in the background, creating these sort of ogival patterns in the middle, and then this blue Greek key border and this giant blossoming flower in the center. Really nice. And it's only up to $26. Closes Tuesday. It should bring, $250 to $350. It's a nice rug. It's a nice carpet. And then this. This is a Beijing glass overlay Beijing glass vase. Now, there are a lot of fakes of these around, and all of them are trying to be Qianlong, of course, and they have marks on them and so forth. This is a 19th century piece, pretty clearly, but it's not a new piece. That's the thing. This is a nice 19th century Qianlong revival piece with beautiful, beautiful, beautiful overlay, and it's not a snowflake background, but it's pretty close, what they call snowflake in the old days, and this very nice green overlay on the pink, green and pink. But if you look at the bottom, it has sort of a nonsensical, archaic mark, and that so it doesn't mean anything, because they used to put wheel cut marks into the bottom of Peking glass all the time. But notice the wear on the bottom. That's all the very legitimate looking wear to me. This is not wear that was applied on purpose, because the way it's patterned and the way it looks, I think it's perfectly legitimate. That all looks very, very fine, because Peking glass is fairly soft, scratches very easily. But this is a lovely vase. Now, it's going to do well. It's got it closes on Tuesday, and it's got 28 bids, and it's already up to $600. And it's pretty good size, too. It's 10 inches tall. It's not a 5 or 6 inch piece of Beijing. But if you've been wanting to buy a nice piece of Peking glass, this is a heck of a nice piece. And I suspect whoever did it copied it off of one that was patterned and made in the imperial workshops, because during the 18th century, the end, sort of around 1870 or so, the Qianlong Emperor had an atelier set up for making Beijing glass and snuff bottles, or maybe it was even before that, and they made glass snuff bottles and Beijing glass and so forth at the palace. And he was very interested in this stuff. That continued on sort of into the end of his son's era, the Zhaijing Emperor. They kept doing it in particular. But this is a very, very nice piece. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody finds out that this is a reproduction, a 19th century reproduction of something that was designed and done in the 18th century. It's a really nice thing. Should bring $1,800 to $2,500 anyway. But if you've been looking for a good piece of Beijing, this is it. This is a nice piece of glass, beautifully carved, beautifully cut. And then this also is, I think this is the same seller. Yeah, is this that was eBay Consignor? This is eBay Consignor. They must have gotten into a house with good stuff, because this is a good Kangxi period. They call them gin bottles, slab constructed bottles, nicely enameled, good femi-vert decoration. Pull this in. That's a nice piece of Kangxi ware. It's got a little fritting on the edges. You know, these bottles always get fritting on the edges where they put the slab, because these are slab constructed. They're not made on a wheel, obviously. They roll out the clay, cut it, stand the pieces up, and then lute the edges together. The way sometimes when they turn a vase, they make it in two parts and lute the piece together. In this case, they use the slabs. They put it together and then seal it. And sometimes a little air gets in there, bubbles the glaze off when it's fired, and you end up with that. But this is a nice bottle. It's a really good bottle, and right now it's up to $402. Ought to bring $1,000 to $1,500 pretty comfortably. But it may go for $700 or $800, which would be a terrific buy. All right, and then what sold this last week was this. Because I'm out of step here, I didn't get a lot of the results from last week. But there's this very nice silk hanging. Beautifully done, very soft, this sort of rust brown background, but very fine quality needlework, 19th century, 178 centimeters in length, which is about almost 6 feet long. It's a big one. Ended up doing well. It sold for $1,895. There you go. And then lastly was this, the Yongchen period teapot. This was a nice one. It didn't have its under tray, but the rest of it looked quite good. And this didn't look like it was repaired over in here. The little tree link over to the spout often is damaged on these, and they end up being repaired. But this one looked very clean. This was sold by this ceramics and collectibles guy over at Shangri-La Antiques. Oh, they've changed their name to Shangri-La Antiques now, Amsterdam. Is that something new? All right. I think it still shows up as ceramics and collectibles. Anyway, those are nice guys over in Amsterdam that sell all kinds of good stuff. And here you have it. All right, this was a good buy, $427. I thought that was an excellent buy. All right, that's about it for the week. And it's good to be back. Excuse my voice. It has not come back all the way yet. It's supposed to. They say it's going to be fine. And every day it's a little better, so forth. Yeah, I sound like a whiskey, like I've been drinking whiskey all day. Whiskey breath or whiskey voice. But it's just the abrasion. And thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to the channel here. And if you're up to it, join us through Patreon or through the global member pages. And thanks a lot. It's good to be back. And we're working on. I already started laying out some videos for next week. And so stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right. Thank you all very much. All right. Bye bye.